Initially, it was kind of going back to the drawing board, but using the same plan of, well, I don't know enough. And at first it was analyzing it, it was information. And I finally realized that, and this is a big thing, Three Doors and you, Ryan, Caleb, you guys have all helped me with, is realizing it's not like the lack of knowledge of information. It's the lack of being around the right people, having the right tools, knowing how to utilize them. A big part of it for just the overcoming was trying to just view the fear in a different way.
All right, guys, here we go now. It is time to unlock more doors to deals. We're real estate investors here. We're real estate agents here, and we all have one thing in common. We believe that we can live the life of our purpose. We can create financial freedom. We can build a better life for those that we love, and we can live the life of our dreams. I don't care if you're trying to do your first deal or your 500th this year. You can get to the next level, and we're here to help. Welcome to Doors to Deals. I'm your host and founder, Jim Manning. Today's episode can be found on doorstodeals.com/068. So today, ladies and gentlemen, we have Vince Olkonski on the line. Vince is an agent and investor on our team here in St. Louis, Missouri. He's been with us a couple of years now, and we're going to unpack a lot of what's going on in between Vince's ears and how he was able to some of the fears that he felt and some of the ways that he's been able to overcome those fears and kind of get on the board and have some good investment deals going like he does right now. So really excited to bring this to you. Just a quick reminder, we have some amazing resources for you available. Our goal is to help 250 agents and their clients become financially free over the next 10 years investing in real estate. Last year, we were able to help generate over $130,000 a month in passive income. If you're interested in that and learning more about it, just send us over an email, deals@threedoors.com. That's DEALS at threedoors.com with the subject titled Passive Income Opportunities. And we'll get you rocking and rolling on what we have available there. And let's go into the other bookkeeping item we have, the iTunes review of the week.
This week's review comes to us from Jadekins, titled Raw and Real, 5 stars. Jadekins writes, I really enjoy the honest and raw real-life examples they use to help with your journey in real estate and life. Jadekins, thank you for your review. Jim, back to you.
All right, guys. No more talk from me. Let's get going on this interview.
Hey, guys. Welcome to the Doors to Deals podcast. I'm your host, Caleb, here today with Jim Manning. I'm super excited to interview Vince today. Vince is a super awesome agent on our Three Doors team here in St. Louis. He joined us right around when COVID started, and I think he's almost doubled his business in the last year and a half, and he's buying his first rental property. So I'm really excited to get into that, talk to Vince a little bit. He's one of the most talented agents I know, and I enjoy getting to talk to him every day, so I'm sure you guys are going to love this podcast. Hey, Vince, how's it going? Oh, you're muted.
Still muted. Good start. Yeah, I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm super excited to have you on today. When was it when you did join Three Doors officially?
So I jumped on, I think officially my license transferred in January of 20. So nice. I think I gave Jim the official high five right before Christmas of 19, and everything went through like the first week of January.
Yeah.
About to come up on 2 years.
Yeah, and the timing of it was so wild because I just remember being like, all right, cool. And then like I didn't see Vince for like a year because COVID hit, even though we were working together and whatnot, but it was all virtual. So it was pretty wild, man.
The timing was impeccable. You couldn't beat the timing. It was amazing.
Yeah, I love how
long have you been in real estate, Vince?
So I got licensed in 2015. So I'm about to enter my 7th year, if I can do math. So I got licensed in 15 and then went back and got my broker's license in 17.
Awesome. And so what has been, I would say, just starting out, what early on in your career was one of the best decisions you made, like getting started to jumpstart your career?
One of the best decisions I made?
Yeah. So early on, what did you do that made you successful?
Early on, I think it was just actually committing to it. One of my, I kind of like went back and forth about getting out of the corporate world and getting my real estate license and kind of diving in for, honestly, looking back on it now, far too long. I wish I would have just pulled the trigger earlier when I had first really considered and wanted to do it. But I think one of the first things I did that has added to my success was I committed. I fully committed to it. And there were times where I think that commitment might have wavered early on because, the first year or two for most agents is their toughest go. But really just committing and saying, I've made this choice. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do. And it's not, can I make it work? It's how do I make it work? And I think just kind of mentally creating that just mind space was a big part of letting me drive forward, fight through, and become where I am today, which I'm not super bad about.
Yeah, no, I love that about talking about commitment and determining to be successul. Did you have some people that kind of pushed you, or like what really pushed you to fully commit? Did it come from within?
At first, it really came from within. When I jumped in, I joined my first brokerage and kind of found myself like the lone man on a boat and just trying to figure out which way to paddle in the ocean. And about 6-8 months in, I jumped to a different brokerage where I got a little bit more leadership and training, and a lot of my just knowledge came self-taught, research, self-educated, and I kind of continued to grind through and started realizing like, hey, I've got these bigger goals, I've got these bigger ideas. I feel like I have at least the initial skill set to really take my business to the next level. And my first step into that was getting back into the management world and managing a brokerage. And I learned that wasn't the right move for me. And about that same time, I was connected with Jim via Adam Draghi. Adam and I have a mutual friend. His brother-in-law is a buddy of mine. I actually met him at a bachelor party, of all places, which is really cool. And he set up a first meeting with Jim, and really kind of took it all from there.
Gotcha. Yeah, and the rest was kind of history, huh? So, coming over to Three Doors, you were always interested in real estate investing, right?
I was, yeah. So I originally wanted to get my license to learn the business to become an investor. Becoming just like a real estate agent or broker was, I think, just part of the equation to me. It was never the end goal. So I jumped in wanting to get into, flipping homes and building a rental portfolio. And it's taken me a couple of years to get there, but I've found a ton of guidance and leadership and more knowledge than I sometimes feel like I can, actually retain after I jumped into Three Doors and their world, and just learning so much. And it's finally got over that hump to say, hey, I'm no longer just an agent. I'm now also an investor, and I'm really starting to put all those parts into play that I've been spending so long building.
So Vince, your story is similar to a lot of people in that one of the reasons you even got your license was to kind of invest at some point, right? I believe you told me that. And so you're in for a number of years before you really kind of started getting cranking. Talk to me about like your headspace around some of the things that have been going through your head to kind of build up to this project that you have going on that you're getting ready to close on. So what all is going on in your headspace?
Like currently, or just the transition over the years?
Over the years, it's something that was in your heart to do, but you weren't necessarily actively doing it. So talk to me about that.
Gotcha. It's I feel like it's to a degree common knowledge that 90% of wealthy individuals in the world achieve that through real estate. And you start to look at different options. I was in retail management for a long time. That's where a big part of my background was. And I realized I just wasn't where I was wanting to be. And I knew I could never hit my long-term goals and income and happiness level. So that's where I really started gravitating to real estate and real estate investing, because I saw it as the vehicle I needed to create the wealth I wanted for myself and my family. And through the years, it was, I I was 100% a victim to like the analysis paralysis. I do seminars and read books and podcasts and everything, and I kept soaking in information, but I never felt like I was quite there to pull the trigger. Um, and after a little bit, after my first couple of years as a real estate agent, I got so focused on being an agent that becoming an investor kind of took a back seat. And right about the time that I had first sat down with you, Jim, was when I was really starting to re-explore those things, saying, hey, I'm no longer looking at what my long-term goals were. And in my headspace, I started getting frustrated because I entered this world with a goal, and my path had forked and taken me away that wasn't my initial intention. So I kind of had to stop and pivot and be like, hey, well, one, don't be frustrated because you're not going to get anywhere. Two, let's rethink and find a new strategy. And three, like, I can't be mad because I made my choices. I'm at where I'm at because of what I did. So the headspace was really a roller coaster of, jumping out of the quote unquote comfort of corporate America, and into, 100% commission-based business, which can be a little scary, or for, I would assume, just about everybody who's done it. My headspace really kind of went back and forth between excited, frustrated, I'll never make it, I'm remotivated, and let's go through the cycle again. And really, it was just kind of getting to a point where I'm at now with taking all the coaching and tools and leadership that I am now around to take all that information that paralyzed me for so long and actually put it into action.
Oh, wow. Okay. So there's like three things I want to dig into on this. So all that information that had paralyzed me so long, tell me more on that. Like expand on that. What do you mean by that?
Well, analysis paralysis is I feel like a relatively common term you hear in real estate investing, and it to a degree it is, and definitely real estate investing and real estate as a whole is kind of daunting. It's big. It's not like you're just selling a product over a shelf at $100 or $1,000. I mean, you're dealing with hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more, per transaction, and that holds a little bit of gravity and weight to it for a lot of people. Especially, I mean, like when I first got my license, I wasn't even a homeowner yet. So I was trying to coach people on buying and selling homes when I was still paying somebody else rent. And I started really getting paralyzed because I would dive in and I'd understand it, but I was missing like the actionable part. It's like, I understand how to do this. I've got a good concept of, how the process works and what I'm looking for and where I want to be, and et cetera, et cetera. But then you kind of hit that wall where the paralysis sets in, and you're like, okay, I have all this up here in my mind spinning at 100 miles an hour. How do I put the rubber to the pavement and go? And that's where I would always freeze, because I didn't, it's not that I necessarily didn't always know the next step, but I was afraid to do it because if it was wrong, it could have such an impact, a negative impact on my life, that I would freeze and get paralyzed and say, oh, well, if I can't pull the trigger, well, it means I don't know enough. I haven't educated myself enough. So I start the cycle of, what part am I missing? Let's dive back in. Let's try to learn more. And that cycle kind of went for 4 or 5 years. But then every time I'm like, all right, I'm feeling good. Then you're like, you freeze up, stage fright. And I'd have almost too much information because, you go to trigger on something and you start thinking about that little bit of information you got from one little thing. And you're like, oh, well, that seems like this might not line up right. And then again, you freeze and et cetera, et cetera. It kind of turns into like a cyclical.
Yeah. And it's almost this.
Ride.
Yeah. And here's what's fascinating about this, guys, is this is not a knowledge problem that Vince was having. He was studying the game for 3, 4, 5 years when it comes to investing, and learned enough to kind of get going. What Vince was going through was a psychological problem, dealing with fear and dealing with, you're afraid that the negative impact that would have on your life. And what's fascinating about this, guys, and this is what happened to me too. So this isn't me like calling Vince out and saying, oh my gosh, like this is what happens to, I think this kills the dreams of more wannabe real estate investors than like anything else. Way more than like actually what a bad deal can do. Because like getting that first deal kind of getting going is emotionally very difficult. And the crutch, and I don't know, I mean, we call it a crutch, we could call it what we will. The crutch was, I'm just trying to learn more. I need to learn more. But that's not the root cause of what was going on here. The root cause was the fear of making a mistake and what could happen if you make that mistake. Is that a good summation of that, Vince?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I honestly think that summarizes it really well. And the fear of the unknown, of failure, of, hey, I'm just, and it was the fear of how it would impact all the rest of my life and the people that were relying on me, or I felt like I was, owed whatever to. Where I was like, hey, if I take this big setback, if it's mental, if it's financial, whatever it is, that's going to cause ripple effects. And a huge part of my personal worry was worrying not just like, hey, what happens to me? I'll find a way to survive. But what if that ripples out to the other people I care about and love? And if they no longer rely on me or can, what kind of lasting impact does that have on them? And that's when I would really get paralyzed, because I was like, hey, some of these actions, they go beyond me if I fail. And that's where I would really freeze up, was the worry that my loved ones would suffer for risks I wanted to take. And it was fear at its base. But that fear came from a lot of different angles, and overcoming that fear has honestly been my biggest obstacle.
Well, and the way our brains are designed, guys, like fear is a really good thing because it protects us. Like if a gunshot goes off and it's in the room we're in, like we don't necessarily have time to think. At that point, we need to fight or flight, right? But I always use this, like to use an analogy here, like if you're talking with a girl and it's like one of your girlfriends that you grew up with, you're good buddies with her, and you walk up, you're at a bar and you get a drink and you walk back and you just start to talk to her. There's no hesitation there, right? But then if you see somebody across the room and you're like, man, that girl's cute, I should go talk to her. And then you freeze and you start to think about it like, oh, well, what if she'll say no? Oh my gosh, what's going on? Then your brain kicks in and it's like, well, wait, Jim was just talking to that other girl and he wasn't hesitating. So that girl, that's safe. But now he's hesitating to go talk to this other girl. I have to protect him now because I have to keep my job, and fear is my job is to keep him safe. So he's hesitating, he's pausing. So then he's not going to get out of his comfort zone. And the same battle happens. The same exact thing happens when it comes to real estate investing.
I think, yeah, that's really it. I mean, it's fear comes in so many different forms. And one of the things that I've really started to realize over the past, I mean, honestly, just this year even, and I think you just mentioned something similar about this, is fear doesn't have to just be like fear, and it doesn't have to be a negative thing. Like it can be a tool I feel like if you learn how to control it, which is something I'm working on. There's, a lot of daredevil stuff in my life, and the stereotypical form of fear's never been an issue for me. But for some reason, it was. It just seemed much bigger than I was. And having it be much bigger than I was like, there's just so many impacts that it could have that, yeah, I kept getting paralyzed. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
So yeah. So how did you break through this fear? Like what started to chink this away for you?
Initially it was kind of going back to the drawing board, but using the same plan of, well, I don't know enough. And at first it was analyzing it. It was information. And I finally realized that, and this is a big thing, Three Doors and you, Ryan, Caleb, you guys have all helped me with, is realizing it's not like the lack of knowledge of information. It's the lack of being around the right people, having the right tools, knowing how to utilize them. A big part of it for just the overcoming was trying to just view the fear in a different way, where I could use it as a tool, saying like, well, I'm scared of this. Why would What's the impact? How do I fix it? Who do I need to help me fix it? If it's simple as mentorship, someone asks questions to somebody who's real life. The overcoming factor is not just, hey, being scared of it and backing off, but really just starting to dig into the root of it and ask more questions about it. And why was I scared about this? Because I didn't have someone to lean on for that. Why was I scared of that? Because I didn't have this. And then it started giving me bullet points to go after of, well, I need somebody in my corner that can walk me through blank. Who's a good outlet for that? I found Jim Manning.
So you got out of your head and you started reaching out and connecting with people that you knew, asking questions, and that's kind of like what helped gave you more confidence to get into action though.
Yeah, absolutely. I stopped trying to do it all myself. And that's been a huge thing. Not only is finally being able to jump into the investment world, but it's really helped me grow my retail business as well. I had my biggest year as a realtor in 2020 through the pandemic. And I got to a point where I was like, hey, I'm doing this as a new father, with all the stuff, with barely being able to leave the house or meet people in person. And I somehow had my biggest sales year ever. And I started realizing I had to start delegating things out. I had to start reaching out, and I can't be good at everything. No one's good at everything, right? So many people are good at several things, but at the end of the day, I started realizing like the time is more valuable than the money. And it was like, oh, I don't want to pay someone to do this paperwork. I want to keep that money in my pocket. I'm starting to realize, well, if I pay someone to do that paperwork, that frees up my time and I can go make twice the money. And those were fears I was getting, letting go of. And it was just another way to overcome a fear and reach out to people for help, assistance, and so many different ways.
So so I want to kind of finish up this fear conversation, but Caleb, Vince, we need to kind of go back to what Vince just said too, and circle back here in a little bit on what happened personally through the pandemic with the kiddos and not being able to kind of do your normal job function, and how you pulled that off. Because that's to be able to have your best year ever with that challenge is incredible. So, as far as the fear thing, what's interesting is, Caleb, I want to hear you chime in on this too, is for me personally, I did the exact same thing that Vince is talking about. I studied for 18 months. I didn't do a single deal. And it was not until finally I checked my ego at the door and realized that I'm not actually going to know anything till I get into action mode and start learning it through experience. I'm not going to be able to just keep reading books, and get the knowledge that I craved. And I talked to Ryan Wessels, my now business partner, into being my deal partner. And, I would find the deals, I'd do the work, and I'd have him review it and kind of give me the okay. And it wasn't until I started reaching out and working with other people that I got out of my head. And, then the rest is history. It's 2,000 plus deals, but if you're kind of more starting out, compare yourself to this guy that only did one deal in his first 18 months. Don't compare yourself to the 500 plus deals that we, kind of do on average in a year. So, Caleb, what worked for you, or talk to me through like
I'm such like the unique person. I was like 21 years old, and I remember very distinctly. I'm like, dude, I'm only 21. If I go bankrupt, like this doesn't matter. So like, I was not worried. Actually, my girlfriend at the time, her parents were like, you cannot buy this house, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna go buy it. Like I'm using credit cards, and I was leveraging like massive amounts of credit card debt to do my first flips. And to me, it was just like if I don't try it now, I'm gonna wait till I'm 40, and I'm gonna sit there and be worried about it forever. So I'm just gonna go do this, and I'm gonna take the punches as they come. And I ended up doing pretty well in my first one. I did a lot of stuff went wrong, but I didn't want to sit there and let fear conquer me, because I knew I would let that happen. I've never been a very fearful person either. So
so what's interesting is I found people fall into two buckets from having talked to people. There's the Caleb Davises of the world that just go out and throw caution to the wind and just do. And then there's the Jim Mannings and the Vince Okonskis of the world that want to study until they feel certain enough to go do. And the reality of it is people like Caleb, they can get themselves into a lot of trouble with, making some mistakes, thinking that they know more than they do. And then also, myself and Vince is like, if we don't ever get off the ground, don't ever do a deal, like we're not going to learn and have the knowledge either. So it's like, to me, it's like the middle route. It's the middle road, like Caleb. And if you're like Caleb, like you have to take the time to get the right mentor, to get the right trainings, and to spend time investing into knowledge. And then the same advice holds true for the other personality types too, like getting those right people around you is what's going to get over the hump. I mean, Caleb, we were talking the other day, like there's a stat that 80% of success comes from the environment that you're in. Like just having the right people around you. I mean,
it goes in like the circle of five. It's all about who you surround yourself with and you guide you. For me, when I started, I knew how to build a house. So like I knew that like roughly what it was going to cost to fix it. I just didn't know about like the purchase and the sale price. That was where but I was like, I'll figure it out. And I had the right people to ask questions to. So yeah, you are right there. And I knew if I got in too big of a pickle, I could always go pick up a hammer and do the work myself, which was nice.
Yeah, absolutely. So Vince, I want to circle back to you, man. So you pulled off in 2020 your best year as a realtor. But tell me a little bit about some of the personal stuff going on in your life and what some of your limitations were because of the pandemic. Then let's get into how you did it, man. Hey there, if you're looking to get the ultimate edge for your real estate investing company, go to doorstodeals.com/invest for more information. Just so you know, a high percentage of the people that we interview on this podcast are actually already Three Doors Network members. And our network members have a lot of extra resources. They have access to an online training vault with over 3 years worth of content in it. They have access to vendor savings like our Home Depot discount that's literally saved thousands of dollars for members. And we have a weekly group coaching call, and we have a lot of other great things as well as part of the Three Doors Network. So make sure that you check it out on doorstodeals.com/invest. Tell me a little bit about some of the personal stuff going on in your life and what some of your limitations were because of the pandemic. Then let's get into how you did it, man.
Yeah. So like for most people, 2020 was a wild year, right? Like, and then, obviously it trickled over this year and world's still changed forever. So late 2019, about the time I jumped on Three Doors, so my wife and I got married in 2017. And when we first got married, we were both on the same page of like, we don't know if we ever want to have kids. Like, it probably isn't for us. And if we change our mind, we change our mind. We'll deal with it when we cross that bridge. We decided late 2019 that we're like, you know what? Hey, we want to start a family. So we went through all that fun and we're lucky enough to get pregnant early on in trying. And we're super excited. We're stoked. We just found out my wife was pregnant. And literally it was about two and a half weeks later, the world falls apart and goes into lockdown mode. So we are in like literally the first weeks of the COVID pandemic. And my wife's pregnant and I am still trying to hustle hard and I want to grow my business to a point where I'm making enough to start investing and feeling like financially I'm more secure than I have been. And so we found out she was pregnant, got into lockdown to the point, and we all remember like the first couple months of 2020, it was like, don't leave your house. Like, don't do anything. Right. I'm also like on level 10 on this because I'm, going like nesting to be dad mode. And I'm like, not only don't want to leave and the world's a scary place, et cetera, but I have to be tenfold protective because of our situation with the little one on the way. During this time, I'm grinding, I'm following up on leads, I'm lead generating the best I can, which was a complete curveball than what I think any of us have been doing from a lead generation standpoint in years before. So pivoting the business, growing the business, about 6 weeks into learning we're pregnant, we find out we have twins. So all of a sudden, my fear of the world factor, it jumps again to outer space level. And So I'm sitting here working through trying to find a way to balance like being freaked out, protecting my wife and my babies to be, and relentlessly not giving up on growing my business. And going through the transition of finding a way to balance all of that was a huge learning curve for me. I traditionally, even though I've got years of management background and I am to a degree a relatively organized person, I realized that I really had to hyper focus on segmenting like my time and my energy and while always prioritizing safety, to get through it all. And right when I thought the next step was going to happen and I'd catch a breather or whatever it may be, the other half of my mind from like a business standpoint was like, you have a whole new drive now. This isn't just, Vince wants to buy another house. He wants to invest, or I want, an extra comma in my bank account or any of those kind of things. My whole format on business changed because I was like, oh, I've got little people on the way. And it really made me rethink everything I was doing. And that motivated me more and more. So I was doing more lead generation, more deals. I was hustling as hard as I could from a 99% remote standpoint. Because we knew how it was. People were putting houses on the market and they're like, hey, this house is for sale. You cannot enter this house. And it's really hard to, convince a buyer that this is a good house to write a contract on when they don't even have the option to walk through it. So going through all of these changes at once, I'm not going to lie to you, I don't really know how I balanced it. I kind of just went into action mode and I was like, everything's got to get done. How do I get it done? This hour is this hour is this hour is this. And I just started, I think that's where I started using just like my calendar, honestly, more than I ever had before, because I had to start segmenting out my life to be like, this is for lead gen, this is for babies, this is a doctor's appointment, this is for virtual listing appointment. And I had to get really, really diligent about holding myself accountable to a schedule and a lot of the changes that had to take place in the business world because of COVID. And even though I had so much going on in my personal life that, that fear of I won't be able to provide for my to-be children drove me to just relentlessly not stop building my business. And a big part of that was also, it was my first year in the Three Doors team. I had switched brokerages. I was learning Keller Williams. I was learning Three Doors. Plus, everything else is going on. So I felt like my whole life was a tornado. And the only way I really kept it all grounded was to, just hold myself accountable, saying this time is for this time is for this. And the more I did that, I realized my efficiency just skyrocketed. Where what it used to take me a work week to accomplish, I could segment off 2.5 or 3 hours in 2 to 3 days and literally accomplish the same amount that I felt like it was taking me 40 hours to accomplish. And I was more being forced into a position where it was like, well, because so much is going on and, we had a high risk pregnancy with twins. So we were at the doctor sometimes once, twice a week. And anybody who's been to a doctor's office knows it's not like you pop in and pop out, like that'll eat up half your day. So I had, again, the scheduling, the budgeting. And because of that, like I said, my efficiency just skyrocketed and I was really open. I tried to be as open as I could. I mean, we're all resistant to a degree, but I tried to be as open as I could be to all the changes that were happening in the world. Pre-COVID, I had never done a listing presentation via Zoom. In 2020, I probably did 20 of them. And instead of being resistant saying, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that, it was like, somehow I got to make it work. Let's try it. Oh, that didn't work very well. Let's tweak it. Let's try it again. And a lot of it was just being fluid so I could continue to grow instead of being just resistant, because there was already so much resistance in the world just with what was going on, that I was just driven to find new ways. And towards the end of the last quarter of the year, all of a sudden I look back and I was like, I think it was about August or September. And I was like, oh, wow, this is the same amount of business I did last year. And I was like, and I only leave the house once a week. Like,
Yes.
holy moly, like, what am I doing? And boom, kind of like a light bulb went off. And I remember actually having a conversation with you and Ryan about like, hey, this is where I'm at. I feel overwhelmed. I understand I'm doing it, but like my stress level is also really high. And kind of sat down. I remember sitting down doing a Zoom call with the two of you. And I mean, it was a quick call. And it was really just kind of re-implementing points I was already doing, but I hadn't realized I was doing, which was like, live by your schedule, like delegate things that you can't handle. Ryan challenged me towards the end of 2020 to do something. He's like, Vince, you're taking everything on your shoulders, which was a huge part of my problem in my first several years. Was I was a lone wolf. Everything was on me, responsibility, paperwork. If my hand didn't touch it, I was afraid it wasn't going to get done right. And out of necessity versus like, oh, this is a good way to grow my business, I started using a transaction coordinator. And all of a sudden it was like, boom, half my paperwork was off my desk. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay, cool. That's worth every penny. And it forced me into situations through 2020 because I was forced to pivot. Where I was like, stick by the schedule, delegate things out, realizing that time is worth more than money. And those things kind of started to fall into place where it was like, I had to make these changes, and I tried my best to welcome them. And when I started welcoming them and understanding the changes I was making, that's when all of a sudden it was just like, holy cow, like my business is taking off. Like I'm going crazy. Now I had to sit down and reorganize my life and my schedule and my process. So that way, as I started doing more, I could pivot yet again and continue to grow instead of capping out, which is how this year I am on pace to double last year again. Which is really exciting. And part of it, still you kind of look back behind you and you check over your shoulder and you're like, the heck am I doing? Like, and you're like, all right, well, I'm doing what I told myself I'd do. People that mentored me, they helped me make a plan. What am I doing? I'm just trying my best to stick to that plan. And that plan has made all the difference in the world. It's been awesome.
So there's one thing here that's going on, Vince, that I need to comment on, because you just live this, and I want to make sure you're aware of what you just lived. And then there's a challenge that you're getting ready to have that you're probably not quite there yet. There's a saying, I think Simon Sinek coined this, a strong enough why will overcome any how. Okay, so COVID, that's a pretty big challenge, right? A strong enough why will overcome any situation. So your why with your kids, kind of that newfound energy of providing for your pregnant wife and the kiddos that are coming, the twins that are coming, and that like kind of like helped take you to another whole level that you didn't even know you had at that point. Okay. And so what's about to happen now that you've doubled your business the last 2 years, and the financial security, like you're getting a little bit more secure, obviously, because your business has been doubling. You're about to be in a situation where the like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, where the ball's like rolling after you and you're kind of like running away so you don't get squished. You're about to be in a new reality here where the ball's not there anymore. And like you already have things set up pretty darn good for your kids. There's that security there. And if you don't really get intentional on your why and coming up with a why that is just as red hot, just as that you're just as passionate about, that that just gets you up and gets you just as motivated. If you don't really think through that, what can happen is you can start to revert back to your old habits before the kids happen and just kind of start to coast and just kind of hem and haw, you know what I mean? So like the thing that I would really kind of encourage you to be intentional about is really kind of thinking about that. And you might have to kind of make it bigger, like it's still going to be, there's going to be an element for your kids and your family there, no question. But like, you may have to really kind of think through this for the next version. My why's shifted multiple times now that I've been doing it 13 years. It's done it multiple times. So I mean, dude, this is amazing. Congrats on everything that you're doing. Caleb, looks like you wanted to say something.
No, I'm good. I keep like lagging my internet. I'm sorry. So I might have like opened my mouth to breathe and it just froze me there. Watch Jim like stay completely still.
Caleb's having internet issues. Okay, well, I guess I'll just talk more. That's fine. I don't mind doing that. So Vince, I mean, where do you see yourself? Like, yeah, I mean, like, so, like, why don't you talk about like what I just said and like the why, like what, like talk to, tell me a little bit about like that and what you see kind of like a why going, something that kind of gets you up and going for 2022 and onward. What do you think?
I mean, the why, I feel like it's an extension of what it was. I'm just getting better at finding clarity on like the details of my why. So my why definitely it's the family. It's definitely got to be the family. But it's just like, why? Oh, my family. Well, what do you want for your family? Oh, I want them to be secure. And at first it was just, that simple of a vague comment. And moving forward to 22, 23, 10 years from now, whatever it might be, the intent, like you said, how intentional I want those whys to be is like, why do I want this? I want, I want to be able to send my kids to college like my parents weren't able to if they choose to go, if that's the right choice for them. I want all these things for my family. So my why is how do I achieve those? How do I get to the next level? How do I continue to grow? And as in looking forward, a big part of those whys is I'm looking like, well, why do I want that? Well, I want that for them, and I want it because it's something that I wasn't fortunate enough to be kind of born into, and that why then naturally I feel like transitions into a how, and how is continue to grow my business, right? That's a big part of it. The side sector was, hey, as one person, you can build a business, you can build a team, you can do all these things, and you can make so much money. But there's only so many hours in the day, and everything can correlate at some degree to $1 per hour. So that's where I'm back on. I'm like, all right, I've been pushing off for whatever fear reasons long enough. My why revolves around, well, time to start investing, getting that passive income, creating, that passive wealth to free up my time for my kiddos, to be able to hand them down something later in life. I feel like the why is the same, but kind of like getting clarity on the fine points of how I want to make that why happen. That's a big part of my moving forward. Like, why do I want to grow my business? Well, honestly, I want to make more money and I want to help more people. Okay, so how do I do that? Let's create a plan. And I mean, and part of that is, it's for the family, but it's also, selfish as it may be, part of it's for me. I like feeling a sense of accomplishment. I like setting goals and hitting them. I like challenging myself. So it's like, well, why push yourself to do this, take this project, take this risk? And at the essence, you can just say, why not? But a big part of my why is because, no one else is going to tell me to do this. I can look to a lot of people in our circle and in our network that can encourage me and help me get towards that why, but no one's going to pick up the phone every morning and just be like, Vince, you need to do this. That why has to be because I want it, even if I want it for someone else. My why is, like you said, that ball at some point, it doesn't feel like it's behind you. I don't think the ball disappears. I think it's in front of you, and I'm ready to like switch and start chasing the ball, take the thing over, make it into 10, 20 balls that can roll in 20 different directions and help my family and friends. Right. And I think a big part of it is like, it's a vision, it's a mindset. And my why is like for my family, how I'm going to create so many more opportunities. And why do I want to do that? Because I just want that for them. But finding the clarity on the fine tunes of how to do that, how to grow, and not only professionally, but just as a person, as a husband, there's always why do you want to be a better person? Because I feel like the people around me deserve it. And I feel like there's a lot of whys, but like you said, getting really intentional on them and then figuring out exactly how to attack them is something I've been doing that I feel like I can get better at. But a big part of my 2022 is, like you said, really getting intentional and having those bigger goals and having a actionable plan to knock it out of the park. So that way, when I accomplish all those, I can do it all over again on a bigger scale and hopefully continue to grow and just benefit everybody that's, I have the touch in my life.
I love that, dude. So let's talk about this deal that you have going on right now. Let's go into this a little bit. So what's, like, how'd you find it? What's going on with it? What's the plan?
Okay, so at the start of 2021, one of my goals for this year, I wanted to do my first 2 real estate investment deals. I did my first wholesale deal this summer, which that was fun. It was quick. I was just like, holy cap, it's not as hard as it seemed, actually. And then I found this deal. It's a little 3-1 house ranch, needs a little bit of work. I found it through a local wholesaler. Just connected with them in the past, just, hunting down deals for myself and other investors. And this guy, of all places, as cliche as it sounds, he threw the deal up on a Facebook page. I happened to just have my phone out, flipping through. It was like, oh, this guy posted this like 2 minutes ago. And I was like, oh, I know this guy. I have his phone number. It's like, perfect. Instead of responding on there, I just called the guy and set up a time to go see it, check it out, set up an appointment to check it out and walk it the next day. Before the appointment, he called me to just be like, hey, like, I've been getting an overwhelming amount of stuff off this house and I haven't even closed on it yet, and et cetera, et cetera. So I took down the listing. I'm like, oh, that's even better. Perfect. So kind of was just like quick to the ball and being more diligent, intentional this year about knowing what I wanted to buy, where I wanted to buy, just really what fit into my buy box, which is something Caleb and I have had several conversations about. I knew it fit in my buy box. So I was just like, all right, cool. Initially, the numbers work, everything works, and I didn't get paralyzed. I went after it. I was like, I want to see the home. I want to write a contract. I want to, like, let's just get the ball rolling. So this hopefully will be a good one. Do you want to go through like numbers and talk?
Yeah, let's talk. Yeah, let's talk
numbers.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Okay. So it's the house. It's a 3-1, little under 1,100 square feet. I bought the house for 129. I've got it budgeted for 25K in rehab. And my plan, and when it's all said and done, the house should be worth about 220. One of the big things in my buy box was A, multiple exit strategies, and B, with having multiple exit strategies, having 20% equity. So if I'm going to hold it in any way, I wanted to be able to refi it with no PMI and ideally no money out of pocket. Was really the big goal. So go in 25K, not even doing a full gut on it. Just going to be like a nice refresh, uncover the old hardwood floors, fresh paint, fix, the not sexy stuff like, hey, fix this wiring and all that stuff. The water heater is junk, but go through, make a nice home for somebody and go through. I do have the ability, my numbers work out to where at the end of it, I've got myself budgeted for a 14-week renovation, so 3.5 months. And am lucky that I kind of stuck to my guns, because at the end of this, I should be able to flip it, sell it, and pocket somewhere in the ballpark of 35-ish grand. Or what option A is to turn it into a rental property using a lease purchase strategy, which is something we've been talking about a lot at Three Doors, and it's just kind of a new tool in the tool belt. So my plan is to mix the BRRRR strategy, but instead of just turning into a rental, I'm going to BRRRR it into a lease to purchase opportunity.
And then how much? What's the monthly cash flow on it?
So if I did all my numbers right, I should cash flow just north about 500 a month, maybe just north of 500 a month.
That's awesome. Fantastic. Yeah, it's gonna be a killer deal, man. And so now you just need you don't need many of them. when you got 500 bucks a month cash flow with numbers like that.
So build hopefully the first of many. But I personally, and I wouldn't suggest this for anybody. Like Caleb, you said, you know how to build a house. You're a handy guy. You can do a lot of this stuff. I luckily have the ability to do. I mean, not everything. I can't build a house from the ground up, but I can repair most things in a house. So I've opted to take on a chunk of the work in this deal on myself, and that's how I got my 80% to stick and really work. But if someone doesn't know how to do the work, I would never suggest that. I'm actually heading over there today to start tearing out floors. So I'm excited about it. Hopefully it's the first of many, and go from there. And I do like having the multiple exit strategy to where if something in my life changes or something with the deal changes, if exit strategy A doesn't work, well, then I just go to B. I don't have to freak out. I don't have to worry. I don't have to go research and get paralyzed. Just cool. A doesn't work. Go to B. B's a great option. And that's just adds a lot of security to the mental state of the deal. My mental state for the deal, I guess, would be a better way to put that.
That's incredible.
So trying to buy most of my stuff in, I guess, quote unquote, better areas of St. Louis, better schools. I live out in St. Charles County. So if anybody's listening or watching the podcast that's not local, I live in like the western suburbs of St. Louis. So that's just kind of my niche, both retail and hopefully from an investment standpoint. So I found it out in my neck of the woods, which was part of my buy box as well. I didn't want anything more than 30 minutes from me, just from, obviously I got two infants at home. I can't be gone too long some days. Sometimes you got to be like, oh, I need to go pick them up right now. So that security was big for me in my buy box as well. So for anybody out there that's diving in first, hundredth, whatever, but you're going to be more hands-on with it, I think realizing the proximity it was important to me personally.
Second one.
Yeah. So, hey, congrats on Vince. Congrats on that deal, man. I know it's going to turn out fantastic. Hey, I really just have one more question for you. So kind of going through what you're doing and the level of success that you're at now, if you had to give yourself one piece of advice from when you just got started, that was just an actionable, simple piece of advice, what would that be for yourself?
Take the time to figure out what you want. That can be kind of vague. I feel like it can touch a lot of things, but like, your what and your why, like what do you want out of your business? Get clarity with it and get organized to do it. And I think, I guess I could actually flip that point to even like, I think the biggest thing is get organized. A lot of people that are not, your prototype, like A-type person, they're not organized. They fire from the hip, which I've been known to do. And getting organized, if you're a realtor, like get and utilize a CRM, like use your calendar, get organized. Like, do you want to flip a house? You want to build a rental portfolio? Get organized, know what you need, when you need it, and who you need to do it. The who is a huge part. I know we talk about that a lot. But I think in my mind, it's get organized with what you want. So that way, when you start going after it, like the plan's already in place, because half of the plan's in place because it's already on paper because you've organized your thoughts. So I'd say that just get organized. It really helps give you clarity and take action.
Yeah, and clarity is power. A lot of times, I know myself when I feel like I used to think like, well, I'm not motivated. Like I'm stuck on this. I haven't made it. I'm not sure what to do, and like nothing's happened on this. I wanted to do something, and it's been like a month. A lot of times, it's the lack of clarity is why we don't act. More so than like, oh, well, I'm just not motivated. Like I think pretty much everybody to some levels is motivated. Like when you get that clarity, then boom, like game over. I love that, Vince. A great piece of advice, man. All right, guys. So that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed this one as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. Once again, this episode can be found on doorstodeals.com/068. Also, if you are looking to become financially free and looking for some passive investment opportunities, we help about $130,000 a month. We help generate about $130,000 a month in passive income at the time of this recording, and that's growing every month. And if you have any sort of interest in that, just shoot us over an email, deals@3doors.com. We're helping our agents and we're helping our agents' clients take advantage of that. And once again, that's deals@3doors.com. So go out, live your purpose, and above all else, go after your dreams. Till next time. Thanks for tuning into this show. For more episodes and resources that will unlock Doors to Deals, check out our website, doorstodeals.com.